Benvenuti e bentrovati a questo nuovo momento di confronto digitale nel cuore del Cyber Security Month. Parliamo di tante cose molto interessanti all'interno dell'accelerazione fortissima verso il digitale e della necessità di mettere tutto al sicuro. Oggi parliamo di regolamento DORA nel mondo finance e del perché è molto importante parlarne in questa fase. Lo facciamo insieme a Martin, con cui ci siamo già conosciuti, ma a cui chiedo di presentarsi e di raccontare in favore di chi ci segue per la prima volta chi è, cosa fa per vivere. Martin, thank you for your time. First of all, what do you do? Who are you and what do you do for a living?
Hi, I'm Martin Greenfield, so I'm CEO of Quad Orbis. Quad Orbis, we offer two services. We offer a cyber consulting business that covers all the cyber consulting skills, from threat assessment right through to kind of transitional cyber security maturity and helping organizations improve that area. And the second service we offer is a continuous controls monitoring platform, or CCM platform as it is known. And this basically offers organizations visibility of their controls estate and helps them report and understand the gaps they may have across their environments.
Okay, thank you so much, Martin. Another personal question: if you can tell us what bothers you most at work.
Well, probably a number of things, but actually, I guess one of the biggest frustrations we have is encouraging our customers to actually invest in automation at the start of the process, because actually, I think a lot of customers feel that they can only get the benefit of automation when they're very mature in these environments. And actually, we spend a lot of our time trying to convince customers that we can help them all the way through the process, right from the understanding the basics of security, which is understanding your asset base and what assets you have in your organization, right the way through to the ultimate, which is obviously that controls monitoring environment.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very interesting. Then I will share to the focus of this interview. Martin, if I say DORA regulation, what is the first thought that comes to your mind?
Well, a lot of work, I think. I think organizations have a lot of work to do. I think the DORA regulation is obviously there to protect the EU financial ecosystem from a meltdown in the event of an ICT failure or a cyber attack. And I think it's the first time that companies have really been asked to understand their critical business functions, and then to actually map all of the information along with that supports those environments. So right through the whole process, it's the first time those companies have been asked to really think about the unthinkable. What are those questions where you're really looking at what the impact on a business could be from a catastrophic type failure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting. So, Martin, why connected to the DORA regulation, everyone in this period is talking about continuous control monitoring?
You can't just keep throwing people at this problem. You can't keep throwing resources at this problem. As you look at it, more and more of the regulations are asking for continually checking and continually monitoring environment. They're recognizing that the once a year point in time audit is no longer acceptable. They're expecting you to be able to prove and demonstrate that you are continually overseeing the environment. And I think the only way you can do that is through something like a continuous controls monitoring platform. The only way you can really automate, bring all that information together, correlate it, gain the insights and the visibility you need is through doing that.
And now, if you can you talk about the concrete benefits of this approach and why this approach is so important for companies?
I mean, the automation is clear. You need to reduce the manual tasks, increase the accuracy, and provide that real time. As I said, it's no good now looking at quarterly or monthly updates. And that automation process where you're really taking out what has been basically to date, people walking around with clipboards and recording information on paper, as that gets passed through the system and up into the various report, you're always open to inaccuracies. You're always open to that human emotional element of reporting problems. So the only way to run through this really is through that automation, and that will not only save you time and money, but it will actually allow people to focus on the outcomes. It allows people to do the more interesting work. You get a live asset register with the environment. So actually, as I said, the first kind of step in any framework or any regulation is understanding your assets. You need to understand your assets to understand where your gaps are, understand where your tooling coverage. As part of CCM, you effectively build that as step one of what you're doing. You effectively get that information. You correlate data from a number of data sources, and you really start to understand what assets you have and what gaps you have in that tooling and coverage technology. You get a central evidence repository. So you start to build an environment which captures the evidence for every one of those controls on a day-by-day basis. You can go back to any point in time and you can see not only whether the control was effective, but you can see the underlying evidence that demonstrates either it's effective or why it was failing. You understand why it's failing. You get a product that can link to other parts of your ecosystem. So actually a system that can now link to your ITSM, to your ticketing systems, for instance. So it can automatically generate and resolve the problems and track that and keep that as evidence. So again, if you look back historically where an auditor is going to want you to look at that, you've got all of that in one environment. And it's just that, it's the only way really that you're going to be able to manage these environments going forward is through something like a continuous controls monitoring platform.
No, thank you, Martin. Another question for you: when we talk about DORA regulation, we are saying that we are running toward January 2025. What needs to be done by January 2025, and what doesn't?
Well, you need to be compliant. I mean, it's an evolving environment. It's a new regulation. No one's been through the audit process yet, so we don't really understand exactly how the auditors are going to approach it. But we do know that if you read the regulation, if you read how they want to implement it, they want you to be compliant by that date. And although you'll only probably be actually audited and assessed on it a year later, organizations are going to have to build and be prepared for that. And we know that a number of organizations are not going to be ready. We know that the regulation was actually quite late in terms of adding some of the real detail to what organizations need to follow. But I think it'd be wrong for organizations to think that the regulators are going to be soft on anyone throughout that process. And I think it'll only take, a major failure. I mean, the CrowdStrike failure earlier this year was a great timely example of what happens when you go through this, and actually are organizations ready to withstand, recover and respond to it. So I think it's organizations need to be prepared, they need to be ready, and they certainly need to be fully underway with the process.
Yeah, Martin, thank you for your time. Now the last question, the most important question of this interview: why is it easier to meet to face the challenge of DORA regulation with Data Cloud and Quad Orbis?
Well, I think with Data Cloud and Quad Orbis, you've got a partnership and a coming together of technologies and skills that can really help an organization through the whole process. I mean, in terms of both through the whole gap analysis, through providing better and mature tooling sets, through the knowledge and skills that we have across the board. And obviously with CCM, we've got the ability to really implement a service, and it's run as a service. So we don't offer it as a product, it's actually run as a service. So we help the organization right through the life cycle of DORA, but equally, and the important thing is not just obviously getting DORA compliance, but is actually to maintain that compliance and demonstrate your compliance going forward, and linking it to the other regulations that you need to be compliant with, because clearly an organization, a financial organization, doesn't just have one regulation in DORA. It's got a multitude of things it needs to comply with. Building that into an automated system really helps. And I think when you have the skills of Data Cloud along with Quad Orbis, you really have a winning combination there.
Thank you for your time, Martin. Such a useful talk about DORA regulation, a very important challenge for every kind of company. Thank you very much.
No problem. Good to see you. Thank you.
Ok, as we say in Italy, avanti tutta, e ci vediamo alla prossima con gli appuntamenti con Data Cloud e Cyber Security Month. Grazie mille.